Tonight on Dynamite, we found out what the main event of AEW Dynasty is going to be. We had Kenny Omega and Swerve Strickland. We had some actual stakes on the line here in this match. Swerve Strickland putting his #1 contendership up for grabs. In exchange, Kenny Omega putting his EVP power on the line. Now, what that even means, we don't know. They never did articulate exactly what that would entail. But whatever the case may be, both men put something up in this match, and it will be Kenny Omega challenging MJF in Vancouver next month for the AEW World Championship. The first time that we are seeing this match in a good 3 years or so, maybe 2.5 years. It's been a while. MJF won the first one, so now we're finally getting the rematch. As far as the match tonight between Swerve and Omega, the biggest surprise is the fact that they opened the show with it and didn't close the show with it. Which in hindsight they should have done. You could see why they didn't, because they wanted Omega to come out and confront MJF, so we had a little face-to-face. But, coming out of this match now, we have a situation where Kenny Omega is going to get a championship match in Vancouver. Kenny will be challenging for the world title in Canada, and as tempting as it may be to have Kenny Omega finish his story and put the AEW world title on him up north, I think that would be a mistake. I'm not expecting it to happen. It's not something I think should happen. I am looking forward to the match. The match tonight with Swerve and Omega was excellent. I didn't think it was as good as their first match a couple of months ago. Easily the highlight of the show, though. What they did close the show with was Darby Allin and Roosh. No countouts, which was kind of an odd stipulation, to be honest with you. I mean, you see what these two guys were doing to each other out there in that main event. And it was like, no countout. It was no countout. It was no disqualification. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't just call it a no-holds-barred match. But that's what we got in the main event. Roosh, a man who has not had a singles match on this television program in nearly 2 years. And that was our main event on Dynamite tonight, which ended with Darby getting the win, obviously, because he's already staked his claim to wanting a world championship match. But it ends with the Callis family laying out Darby. Just beating him up and laying him out. A very flat ending to the show tonight. We did get another match confirmed, though, for Dynasty. We now know it will be Will Ospreay one-on-one with Jon Moxley. Ospreay's going to get Pac in the ring in Winnipeg next week. They did not say whether or not this match with him and Moxley at the pay-per-view is going to be for the Continental title. I hope not. I don't see the need for it. This is obviously a personal issue between these two, mostly from Ospreay's side. It's a grudge match. This has nothing to do with the Continental Championship. Ospreay's got bigger goals and aspirations for this summer that have nothing to do with the Continental title. They didn't specify one way or the other, though, whether or not this is going to be a championship match. Mina got her title match tonight. That was awfully quick. She got a win last week. The first time I could even remember her getting a singles win on Dynamite. Beat out Marina Shafir. And tonight she got a women's world championship match with Thekla, which did not go her way, but if the finish of the match is any indication, and the shenanigans that we saw, I think it's very likely they will run that back at the pay-per-view. I've also got some news to share about Thekla a little bit later on. But the Dynasty card, I think, still a long ways to go. But the Dynasty card seems to be shaping up nicely, I'll say that. As far as the show tonight, it was a decent show. Obviously, the opening segment was the highlight of by far the highlight of the entire show. Nothing else even came close, but still, again, these shows, these shows of late have, especially last week, was not a great Dynamite. This was better than last week, but these shows are, these are not the same shows we were getting earlier this year. Something's been off. Still decent, but not what we were getting a couple of months ago. This is your AEW Dynamite review. It is Wednesday night, March 25th, your final Dynamite review for the month of March 2026. I am the Solomonster. We are, last I checked, about 15 or so subs away from 91,000 here on the channel, so I thank you for that. Please do hit that subscribe button and the like button here on this video. Super chats are open, so any that come in addition to the ones that I already have, I will be reading them and answering your questions a little bit later on here in the stream. So let's bring out the wheel. And typically on Wednesdays, when it comes to the Dynamite reviews, it's a bit of a lost cause, but we're going to give it a shot anyway. We're going to hope for a low number. So that way we can hit our goal and do be the booker later. Though I do wonder if we will. Oh, man. Well, 515. 515 likes. That is the goal for tonight. It ain't looking good. I'll just say that. It ain't looking good. Yeah, well, it's better than last week. Last week was 700. We had no chance. On a Monday or a Friday, we have a chance. On a Wednesday, we have no chance. So 515 at least is a little bit better, although at the moment we don't even have that many in here. People are still filtering in. But we'll see what happens. Let's just get right into it here. They opened the show with the real main event of the show tonight, which was Kenny Omega challenging Swerve Strickland for Swerve's #1 contendership for the AEW World Championship, and also Kenny Omega putting his EVP power on the line. We got this with limited commercial interruption, which did not mean commercial free, but it was nice to not have a bazillion commercials in the middle of the match. So we had Omega attempting in the first half of this match. At one point, he attempted an avalanche one-winged angel. Swerve, though, slipped out, and he hit a high back suplex, avalanche back suplex. And both men were down. Strickland at one point grabbed Aubrey Edwards, the referee, as a distraction so that he could deliver a mule kick to Kenny Omega.
Nick Wayne's mom has got it going on. She's all I want, and I've waited for so long. Nick Wayne, can't you see? Go away and leave me be. I hope she likes this song, 'cause I'm in love with Nick Wayne's mom.
Nick Wayne's mom has got it going on. Nick Wayne's mom has gotta love this song.
New world order.
Hey, Leopoldo with the $28. Nick Wayne's mom super chat. It's always nice to have a musical interlude here in the middle of the stream. Leopoldo with the 28. Thank you, brother. Says, first time I heard Edge's promo today, I swear I had to rewind it a couple of times. I really thought that he said, when you decided to put your hands on meth, a woman whose cookie that you've eaten. Oh, I think somebody was on meth tonight, but I don't think it was Adam Copeland. Are you okay, Leopoldo? I think you may have ingested too much. He was talking about Beth, and he was talking about her cooking. Not meth and her cookie. Although that would be far more interesting. But thank you, brother. We know what Leopoldo was doing during Dynamite tonight. Maybe it's what helps him get through Dynamite. I don't know. I don't want to pass judgment. But thank you for the love. I don't know how I'd follow up on that. How do I top that? Meth and cookies. It's a good night right there. But anyway, so as I mentioned, Swerve put his hands on Aubrey Edwards to distract her as he mule kicked Kenny Omega. And then they ended up outside the ring by the barricade. And they end up on top of the barricade. And Swerve is setting up for something, and they both slip and kind of, well, Swerve really slips and falls off the barricade, but then they get back up on top of the barricade. All of this to deliver a pile driver to Kenny Omega on the top part of the barricade. So then he tried big pressure back inside, no dice. House call kick connects into a Swerve stomp, close near fall. So Omega wanted a power bomb. Swerve floated over. He hit a power bomb into a power slam. Kenny came back with a V-trigger and then two more of them. He wanted the one-winged angel. Strickland slid out. He went for a vertebreaker. Omega just rolled through onto his feet, hit the V-trigger to the spine. And again, he tried for the one-winged angel. Swerve reaches down, though, and he gouges the eyes. And then he does hit the vertebreaker. Omega managed to kick out. Rojo Bear says, I want some meth cookies. Well, I don't have any for you. I don't have any for you. Some of these shows I would be partaking myself if they were sitting in front of me. But I'm sorry, there are none available right now. But Omega connected with the V-trigger, and then finally, after multiple attempts, he hit the one-winged angel, and he wins the match, and also earns the right to now call himself #1 contender. Swerve put it on the line. He blew it all. It's like Vegas, baby. You blow on the dice, one roll of the dice, and you could lose everything. And that's what happened tonight for Swerve Strickland. So Kenny Omega is the new #1 contender for the AEW World Championship. Swerve does not have the power. He-Man has the power. Swerve Strickland does not have the power. There will be no EVP power for him. So now these two men are 1 win apiece. I suspect Swerve will not take this loss very well. Although we didn't see him or hear from him for the rest of the night. He just sort of vanished after this. But Tony Khan just could not resist Kenny Omega challenging for the World Championship in Canada in the main event of his next pay-per-view. And you can understand why. I mean, it's very tempting. What a place for Kenny to challenge for the championship, right? In front of that crowd in Vancouver. It's going to be a great atmosphere, and it's going to be a great match. I do feel like there was potential that was kind of squandered here as far as Swerve playing around with the EVP stuff. They kind of dangled it out there, but they chose to go in a different direction. This was an excellent 20-minute match here to open the show with some real stakes on the line here. Again, not as good as their first match that they had a couple months back, but an excellent bout nonetheless. Nothing else on the rest of the show could even touch this.
It's the amazing Gunther.
Oh, yes.
Jerry Lawler loves Gunther the Magnificent. All hail Gunther.
Randy Bobandy dropped a bomb the other night, and he is back yet again with a $50 Gunther bomb. Do you realize that we have now had more Gunther appearances this month than we have had Gunther appearances? That's pathetic. That's really sad. But I'm glad that Gunther was with us. Randy, thank you. Says, so I know this news is a week old, but my dad has had MS. He has a very dark sense of humor for the last 3 years. I showed him the Ricochet tweet and asked him how he would react to that. He laughed and said, yeah, he got me on that one. I like your dad. I like his sense of humor, although I'm sorry that he has been afflicted with this horrendous condition. Randy, thank you. Shout out to your dad. Yeah, Ricochet was on the show tonight. Later in the show, there was a backstage promo with him and GOA. First time we've seen him since Revolution. And he was just talking about, Jack Perry didn't really beat him. He wasn't pinned and, it was unfair and blah, blah, blah. Again, he's very lucky that he is back on television and working, and that they have moved on from this entire situation, because it was a big black eye, not only for him, but, in a way, AEW, because that's really what people were talking about all week, was the reaction to it. And, AEW, taking action, not taking action, it turned into a whole thing. So he better just put it behind him and not be stupid again and let something like that happen. Because, again, it's very easy to get gotten to on social media by people. Although that's not really what happened in this case, but obviously it drove him over the edge, and I'm sure he'll be a little more careful when it comes to that sort of thing now going forward. Oh man, but how about that? More Gunther than Gunther. Never thought I would be saying, especially this close to WrestleMania. I never thought I'd be saying that. We got a Will Ospreay promo backstage, saying that he has an issue with Pac and anyone else who stands in his way of going after Jon Moxley. He issued a challenge to Pac to meet him on Dynamite next week in Winnipeg. Ospreay said Moxley put him in timeout, which is what he says to his kid. And because of that, he owed Moxley a thank you because he got to spend time with his son. But the fear in his son's eyes when he saw what the Death Riders did to his neck is something that he will never forget. Ospreay doesn't know why they did what they did to him in front of his countrymen and his missus and his mum, but he's going to alter Jon Moxley's life like he did Ospreay's, and he's pointing to the scar, the incision on his neck. And he issued the challenge to Moxley for a match at Dynasty. I want you at Dynasty, motherfucker. His words. Well, that led right into Jon Moxley and the Death Riders coming out for the next match, and we'll see if we got our answer to the question. Motherfucker. Will he accept the challenge of Will Ospreay? It was Jon Moxley making his way out to the ring with Daniel Garcia and Marina Shafir. They had bald Wheeler Yuta in their corner to take on Top Flight and Zeta Steel. Top Flight got a spot here on the show tonight because they are from Minneapolis, and the show tonight was in Minnesota. More specifically, they were in St. Paul, but they were in their home state, and so that's why they were on Dynamite, because otherwise, let's be honest here, the only Dynamite that those two would see is if someone threw a stick of it through their front window. So for one night anyway, they got to appear on the A show. Dante Martin was isolated for a little bit. Marina Shafir tried to stop him from making a tag, so Dante hit her with a leaping enziguri. And Zeta made the hot tag. She ran wild on Marina. Yuta tripped her up, and Shafir decked Steel, put her on her shoulders, tagged in Jon Moxley, who climbed to the top as if they were going to do some sort of Doomsday Device type move, or maybe do a Doomsday Device. But Zeta slipped out, shoved Marina into Moxley, which crotched him on the top rope. Daniel Garcia tagged in. He grabbed Zeta, who nailed him with a right-hand shot before tagging in Darius. Yuta was talking shit outside, so Zeta flew in with a suicide dive. Inside, Garcia sank in a Dragon Tamer on Darius. Dante tried to springboard. Marina, though, swept the legs out. He crashed and burned. Moxley hit a curb stomp on Darius while he was trapped in the submission. And so Garcia lets go of the hold, and he gets the pin to win it for the Death Riders. So when the match was over, Moxley asks for the microphone, and he's going to address Will Ospreay and what we just heard before the match that we just saw. And he says it's not nice to say mean things about people on TV or on social media. So Moxley knows that Ospreay is very upset right now, but whatever issue that he has with him, for them, it isn't personal. But if Ospreay wants a big fat grudge match at Dynasty, you got it. Until then, don't let your mouth get you in trouble. A little word of warning there from Moxley. I don't know if there was any other meaning to that, but those are words to live by. Don't let your mouth get you in trouble. We saw a lot of that this week. Again, no mention of whether or not this is going to be for the Continental title. I don't believe it has to be. I don't want it to be. I don't believe it has to be. This is not about the championship. This is about something deeper and more personal than that. And the story is right there for Will Ospreay because they were very fortunate to get him back when they did. And the Owen is still a few months away. Allin is still a few months away. They got a lot of tickets to sell to Wembley Stadium. And here you have, the UK zone could very well walk in there and challenge for the AEW World Championship. No interest in seeing him doing anything with the Continental title, which as far as I'm concerned is a useless belt anyway. So you can do Ospreay, Moxley, grudge match, and just let them go in there and kill each other at Dynasty. And that's honestly all that it has to be. The Moxley thing is very weird because, again, he was a heel for all of last year, most of last year. And then through the Continental Classic, people just sort of naturally gravitated towards him and began to cheer for him and continued to do so coming out of that tournament into the beginning of this year. And now all of a sudden he's back to being a bad guy again and everyone's booing him. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. As far as the match itself, it was a solid match. I've commented before on Zeta Steel. Zeta Steel was a WWE ID signee. She's still very young. She's only 22 years old. And whenever I've seen her, the thing that strikes me more so than anything like in the ring, I mean, she's fine in the ring, but it's how charismatic she is, the way she carries herself. She has a certain confidence about her, which at a young age like that, to carry herself in the way that she does, I think she has the potential to be a very big star. Yeah, she's still a ways off from that because, again, she's still very young and inexperienced. But I've always been very impressed by, whenever I hear her cut promos or anything like that. So she's somebody to keep an eye out for. I think that was a good pickup by AEW. It's not someone who's ready now to be in the championship mix or anything like that. But if they really give her the opportunity to, just continue to work and continue to evolve and give her, speaking time. I know she's not really a major priority for them right now, but she's, one of those young stars who I think could blossom into something big for them. Hopefully she gets that chance. We got a quick match here between Speedball Mike Bailey and Rocky Romero. Ultimate Weapon finished it here for Speedball in less than 3 minutes. Second week in a row that we've had Rocky Romero matches here on Dynamite. This was not much of a match. It was designed for Speedball to rack up another win over yet another member of the Don Callis family. Nothing more, nothing less. So after a break, we had the AEW World Champion, MJF, back live on the show after missing last week's show, but for a pre-tape promo, which was very good. But he was actually there in the flesh this week. And he gloated about hanging the hangman at Revolution. And he reiterated that he will never be AEW World Champion ever again. And I am not going to reenact this promo, but he said the word ever at least 20 times. He made it very clear that Hangman will never, ever be AEW World Champion again, which means, of course, he will at some point. But for now, he won't. He called it an easy dub, not the EC dub. Called it. Although if you watch that fucking Texas Death Match, I mean, that was straight out of EC dub. But he said it was an easy dub at Revolution. And the fact is, he still holds the championship that every man on the planet wants, the title that means you have reached the mountaintop of this profession. And there's no one who deserves it more than him. So Kenny Omega interrupted his little dick stroking session. They came face to face in the middle of the ring. And all of a sudden, the smile that was on MJF's face disappeared. The smile was gone. And he said, Omega said, "You'll have to excuse the way that I'm dressed and how I smell. I just had a match, but what's your excuse?" MJF calls himself the devil. You go up and down the list of names that people have given me. The Cleaner, the Best Bout Machine, the God of Pro Wrestling. Even at the height of my bad guyness. Oh, God. That's what he's... Yes. At the height of his bad guyness. This is what he said. He said he was never so silly as to call himself a god. He never put himself on a pedestal above other people. But if MJF wants to call himself the devil, then maybe he can call himself a god. So that the god could conquer the devil. When he pushed his body to the limit, and his body told him, Kenny, you can't go any further. You can't go any further. You need help. You need to take some time off. He never listened because he felt a responsibility to all these fans, and that was his fault. So when he fought MJF for that belt the first time, he goes, yeah, you were better than a 60 to 80% Kenny Omega, and I can admit that MJF was the better man. But now that I'm back, losing to Swerve the way that I did, it taught me a very valuable lesson. He said, that is, I'm not going to fall for any bullshit hijinks that you may offer. This Kenny Omega today, he said, I'm pretty close to 100%, and I'm probably better than you, and it's okay if the fans know it. But the most important part, the part that scares MJF the most, is that he knows it too. And if he knows it, and he's not afraid to show it, then why don't we just make this gosh darn thing official for Dynasty? Put her there, pal. Oh my God. I'm trying to figure out who came off as more of a geek on this show, Kenny Omega or Speedball Mike Bailey. I don't know. It's close. It's a close competition between the two of them. Well, gosh darn, it looks like we have a title match for Dynasty. Now, MJF spoke up and he said, okay, Dynasty, the God against the devil, you're on. And as far as that handshake is concerned, he went to put his hand out, but then he pulled back, he turned around, and he walked off. So Omega got to do his catchphrase to close out the segment. Their first match was on Collision, if you remember. It was about 3 years ago. It was in October, I think, of 2023. And it was a great match. And MJF won. It was in the middle of his championship run. And I remember how strongly Kenny put him over on the microphone when that match was over. But Kenny was going through a lot of physical issues at the time. Kenny Omega was not 100%. And yet he still went out there and had the kind of match that he had with MJF. So now imagine if he is feeling better now than he was then, what kind of match these two can go out there and have at Dynasty. It's going to be a great match. And I'm very much looking forward to it. But as far as what should happen at Dynasty, I just think it would be foolish to take that championship off of MJF right now. You know, you've got too many potential challengers that are still lined up for him just to throw it all away. Even Darby last week, you know, he directed that message right to MJF and he put his name in the hat. You know, we've seen MJF and Andrade, which I feel like at some point they have to do that match. I've said when I think that match should happen. There's too much meat left on the bone to take that belt off of him right now. And frankly, I think it would be a mistake to take the belt off of him before Will Ospreay has the chance to go to Wembley Stadium and take the championship away from him himself. So it doesn't feel like the right time. Feels like the right time to do the match in Canada. I get it. I mean, you could have pushed it out to Double or Nothing. It's the difference between a month. You know, it's not really a big deal. But this just does not feel like the time to take that belt away from MJF. I would put him over Kenny a second time. Earlier today, Renee interviewed Adam Copeland and Christian Cage in the backstage area. Christian said that life is about making choices, and FTR chose to turn their back on Adam Copeland. They chose to jump them after their match at All Out and leave them laying and give Adam's wife a spike pile driver. And even worse than that, they chose to give him a pile driver. And then he left. And Renee looked at Copeland, and Copeland looked at Renee, and Copeland told Renee he's such an asshole. But he knows two bigger assholes, Dax and Cash. You threw away our friendship. And he can understand why. You know, he's the ultimate opportunist, so he gets it. But when you decided to put your hands on Beth, you've been in our home. You've been under our roof. You've eaten our food. You have played with our kids. We've played with your kids. Our kids go to school together. He says, you want to throw all of that away. He knows how much they love those tag team titles, and they are going to take those tag team titles away from them. But eventually, he's going to find them, and he is going to end their careers. Eventually, I mean, we already know when the match is going to be. Just end their careers in Vancouver. We're going to take those titles away from you, but eventually we're going to take your careers away from you. You know, you could kill two birds with one stone at the pay-per-view. You could do it all. What do you need to wait for? They cut back live. FTR came out on stage with Stokely Hathaway. And Meth Phoenix. That's her new name now. When do we get to see Meth Phoenix back on TV? So Cash Wheeler said that we made choices. Look at us now. Copeland thought that they would live in his shadow, but they take a back seat to no one. He said in 2009, Copeland took Wheeler under his wing and let him live in his guest house. But it's not 2009 anymore. Yeah, tell that to WWE. We keep hearing about 2009 Randy Orton. You have Aleister Black. I mean, people on the show talking about 2009 Randy Orton. Apparently, it's 2009 all over again. But he goes, this is my family now. I don't need you anymore. I have a family now. I don't need your wife. I don't need your stupid kids. And I damn sure don't need you. FTR, we are living legends now. Then it was Dax's turn. And he said neither Cope nor Christian are the men they used to be. They're shells of their former selves. They're just a nostalgia act. The fans know it. Their boss knows it. And more importantly, Cope and Christian know it. They love Beth. And what they did to her made Copeland question, is it worth it? If he'll drop his wife. Now, if they're going to drop his wife on her head, just imagine, what does Copeland think that they're going to do to him? So a couple of dueling promos here. We already knew this match was made. This was the only match up until tonight that was made official for Dynasty. So this was just throwing some more, gas on the flame. I'm sure we'll get the face-to-face between them probably in the next week or so. Not much else to say about that as we move on here to Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong against David Finlay and Clark Connors. The Dogs. They did not have a good week last week. They lost at Revolution. Gabe Kidd went in there last Wednesday. He got beat in the coffin match. Lost to Darby Allin. We didn't see him tonight. So we're still doing this. I thought maybe we were done with this, but evidently we're not. We're still doing this. So the Dogs took out Roddy. Cassidy sent Finlay outside, delivered a PK to Connors. Finlay got back inside and delivered a chop block to Cassidy's knee. Then came a spear, and then they finished him off with a move they call the full clip, where one of them gets Cassidy up in a vertical suplex position, and the other one comes off the top with a spear, and they got the pin to win the match. So at least they got these guys back in the win column. You know, David Finlay has been there now for about a month, right? It was about a month ago, 3 or 4 weeks, when he popped up as a surprise on Dynamite. And now that he's been around for about a month or so, they have done nothing to try to make this guy stand out. And they talked about him when he first showed up like he was a big deal, right? The hottest free agent. Blah, blah, blah. They certainly haven't treated him like it. He's already he's just another guy. He's just another guy in a trio. Not even on his own. But he just feels like another body on the show. We haven't even heard from him. I mean, not on Dynamite, unless there was something on Collision, but I'm talking on Dynamite, which is where he debuted. We haven't even given him mic time yet. So he's just showed up a few times, and he's won a match or two, and he's lost a couple of matches, and okay. He's been officially integrated into the roster. Welcome to AEW, David Finlay. But they certainly haven't done a whole hell of a lot to make you feel like, hey, this guy is something special here. Not a great start. Not a great start for him. After the match, we got a video package and a promo from Lena Cross and Megan Bayne, where they told Willow Nightingale and Harley Cameron that they bit off more than they can chew, and it cost them. And they said that there are no second chances, just another fatality. You know, I got to say, Megan and Lena, they look good together. They really lucked into this pairing. And that rematch is going to be taking place for the women's tag team titles this Saturday on Collision. Kyle Fletcher was backstage. He was talking about defeating his mentor, Robbie Eagles, on Collision this past weekend. Okay, sure. He mentioned being undefeated in 2026, something Kenny Omega can't say. Even MJF can't say that. Fletcher isn't happy, though, about Don Callis's business arrangement with MJF, instead saying the Callis family should be fighting MJF, not working with him or for him, and bringing the AEW World Championship back to the family. And he is just the man to do it. But first, and he brings in Konosuke Takeshita, Fletcher says, look, I know that you are not a fan of Okada. I know you are not a fan of Proto-Okada. And Takeshita said, look, nothing can come between you and me, especially Okada. And he reminds Fletcher that Proto-Shida came first and the two of them share a hug. The slow burn continues for Takeshita and for Okada. I feel like it's been a slow burn for over a year now. We're in Paul Levesque territory here. But we gotta kill time until we get to Wembley. I think all roads lead to Wembley. Takeshita against Okada. I will say I did laugh. I don't know how many of you saw the clip. I don't know what it was from. Kyle Fletcher was doing some sort of interview, I guess. I think it was him and Sky Blue. But he was answering a viewer question, and somebody asked him, how many members are there in the Don Callis family? And the first answer out of Kyle, and Kyle Fletcher is one of the more prominent members of the family. He's in the family. And the first words out of his mouth were, "Fucked if I know." At least he's honest. There's at least 13 members of the family. Minimum 13. I don't know offhand what the exact number is. It could be more. It could be 14. It could be 15. It could be 17. I don't know. I know the number is at least 13. After that, it gets a little fuzzy. We had Thekla against Mina Shirakawa for the AEW Women's World Championship. I thought they might save this for Dynasty, and then I saw they announced it for the show, and I'm like, okay then. This is coming off Mina's win, the biggest win of her AEW career last week on Dynamite over Marina Shafir when she took the place of Timeless Toni Storm, who was attacked by a mystery assailant. And we are not going to see her now for a very long time. It's not an injury, though. Those are the reports. Not an injury. But she's not expected back for a very long time. So make of that what you will. But anyway, coming off her win over Marina on Dynamite last week, she gets a championship match here. She looked good on Saturday, too, at the House of Glory show, Mina did. She got a win over Shotzi with a little assist from Indy Hartwell. A little cross-promotional action going on there with TNA and AEW. But it was another win for Mina. So can she keep the momentum going? That was the question here coming into this match. Now, at one point, Thekla mocked Mina. She was writhing around on the mat the way that Toni Storm usually does. So that was kind of amusing. She did her spider pose, and Mina was able to avoid the spear that followed. She caught her with a knee strike. Thekla did eventually catch her with a spear, and then she took her belt off. Now, the referee, I believe it was Mike Posey, got involved, tried to prevent Thekla from using the belt. But then, as the referee was distracted, Thekla pulled a pair of brass knucks out of her brassiere. Mina ducked the punch. She delivered a back fist. She went for a suplex. I think it was like a back suplex. And Thekla had the knucks on. Referee could not see it from his vantage point. And she blasted Mina right in the head with the knucks and knocked her out. Thekla covered her and got the 3 count because Mina was out. I will say they gave Mina a fair amount of offense here in this. I don't want to say she took the entire match, but she got a lot of offense in here in this match. And then you look at the way the match ended, and Thekla had to cheat to win. So if they want to run this match back at the pay-per-view, which would certainly make a lot of sense to me, that was the opening to do so. Mina now has a case to want to get a rematch for the championship. They haven't really set anybody else up as a potential next challenger for Thekla, so I assume that we're just going to run this match back again. Now, I mentioned earlier I had some news to share with you on Thekla. This comes from Fightful Select, which earlier this afternoon reported that Thekla recently signed a new multi-year deal with AEW, even though she was already under a 2-year contract that was not close to expiring. And the reason is, according to the report, the company was so happy with her performance so far, they made the move to sign her to a new multi-year deal, not even a full year into the original contract. Good for her. Thekla has been a great addition to that women's division. I've talked about how just unique she is as a personality. She's a little quirky, I think is a good way to put it. And quirky is good. She's a good wrestler too. But just personality-wise, her promos and everything, she has really shined. They've given her the ball to run with, and I think she's shined so far. So it's good to see someone being rewarded for that, and I was happy to hear that news. So if you're a Thekla fan, Thekla will not be going anywhere anytime soon. Maybe that means a more extended title run for her. I certainly don't expect her to be dropping that championship at Dynasty, whether it's against Mina or whoever she gets in the ring with. So backstage, we have Renee, who is with Kenny Omega. His third segment now on this show. And she mentioned that next week on Dynamite, there is going to be a contract signing. But if there is any physicality, this is per MJF, any physicality, the match is off. So Kenny said it's like deja vu for him. It's been a while since he's been in this position, challenging for the world title. If it's his time, then at Dynasty, he'll be the guy that take that title away from MJF. Now, of all people to walk in the middle of this segment here, we had Speedball Mike Bailey, who walks in to remind Kenny that the two of them wrestled last year at Dynasty. And he meant what he said then, and he means it now. He admires Kenny Omega. And he hopes that he goes on to beat MJF at Dynasty this year. And when he does, he'll be right there for a title shot. But for now, he would just like to shake his hand. I would just like to shake your hand. And Kenny shook his hand and he promised him the first shot. And Speedball wouldn't let go of the handshake. And so Kenny basically asked him if we could stop shaking hands now. That was a little awkward. Just a little bit. You know, all the more reason for MJF to win this match at Dynasty. The idea of Speedball Mike Bailey is the AEW World Champion. Look, Speedball's a great wrestler, but Speedball as the World Champion? No. No, no, no. That's why we all need to root for MJF at Dynasty. I mentioned there was a Ricochet promo in here somewhere in the back. Again, he was just crying and complaining about losing his national title to Jack Perry. So I guess he's going to be going back after the national title again soon. They close with Darby Allin against Roosh. No countouts in this match. Now, I would tell you that Darby really took a beating in this match, but I've been saying that about Darby matches for about 6 years now, so you don't really need me to say that. But this was Roosh's first singles match on Dynamite in nearly 2 years. You'd have to go all the way back to June of 2024 to find the last time that Roosh had a singles match on this show, and that singles match was against MJF. So here we are now. Not only is he back on Dynamite in the main event, but he's in a no countout match. Again, a very weird stipulation. No countout, no DQ, because these guys were outside the ring and they were killing each other. That's basically what it was. But, you know, just to go back to the Roosh thing for a second, the fact that it's been so long, and I know there were some injury issues in there, but it is insane how literally years will go by in between matches for some of these guys, because Roosh is not the only one. There are other examples of this. Every now and then you'll hear me in a review here where I'm like, oh, this is so-and-so's first match on Dynamite since 2024. This is their first singles match on Dynamite since 2023. And I have to stop and think like, holy shit. Like, unless it's someone who was out for an extended period of time with some really significant injury, then you can understand it. How the fuck does that happen? And it just goes to show you the inconsistency is such a killer for some of the people on the undercard here in this company. How are you supposed to get over if you can't even get a match on the A show? Literal years will go by before you have another match on Dynamite. It just goes to show how inconsistent the booking is and also how large the roster is, because there is only so much space on these shows. Not everybody has to be on the show every single week. But for Roosh to have a match on Dynamite in June of 24 and not have a singles match on this show again until March of 26, like, how does that happen? There's no excuse for that. Consistency. Consistency is key. So Roosh jumped Darby as soon as he got to the ring, and he started tossing him around ringside. Darby took a just disgusting bump over the ring steps where his legs smashed into the barricade. Then he tried for a suicide dive, but he crashed and burned onto the floor. He took a header into the floor when Roosh moved out of the way. Then Roosh delivered a belly-to-belly suplex from the apron to the floor, so you can see where Darby is basically a crash test dummy out there. So Darby was bleeding when the show came back from commercial. They said it was a wound that he sustained in last week's coffin match that had reopened. Rush told him, "Chinga tu madre." And in response to this, Darby fired up. He sent Rush out to the floor right in front of the announce desk. Caught him with a suicide dive. This time it did connect. Then he climbed to the top rope and delivered a drop kick. A shotgun drop kick from the top rope to the floor to Rush, who was seated in a chair. So at the end of all this, Rush was getting ready to give him the horns. If you mess with the bull, you get the horns. So he was going to give him the horns. And then Darby moved out of the way. And then he pulled Rush into a jackknife pin for the win. He got a flash pin, and he quickly scurried out to the floor. Darby Allin escapes. He didn't really win so much as he kind of survived, and he escaped. So Mark Davis storms out from the back as Darby is sitting there. Again, I don't know what building they were in. Supposedly they had in excess of 3,000 people there tonight, but it was one of these venues where very short aisleway, from the stage to the ring. And Darby is just sitting there, and he doesn't see Mark Davis storming out. And Davis just reaches down, just in one fell swoop, just picks him up and drops him with a pile driver right on the floor. Now all the other members of the Callis family, however many there are, spill out from the back, including Don Callis. Andrade is there with him as well. They all pour out from the back. This is all part of the deal they made with MJF to soften up Darby Allin. That's what the briefcase was last week. That was presented to Andrade. They're working on behalf of the AEW World Champion. And Andrade he just stayed in the aisleway with Callis, and he looked very unhappy about what was going on. He was just very upset and venting his frustrations to Don Callis. Not really participating in the attack itself, but they left Darby laying in the middle of the ring, and that is how they went off the air. And that would seem to be a match for Dynasty, you would think. I mean, it was Andrade who was presented with the briefcase. So you would think that at Dynasty, the match is going to be Andrade one-on-one with Darby Allin. Nothing was officially said about that. It was a very flat ending to the show. And this is the second week in a row now where I'm looking at this main event. And I'm like, this doesn't really feel like it should be the main event of this show. And certainly not on a show where you had Kenny Omega and Swerve Strickland in what ended up being a pretty important match. They made the choice that they had to do the match first because they wanted him to come back out and interrupt MJF during his promo. So if that's what they wanted to do, then I guess it had to be done that way. But again, it was just this fall off from the opening segment where nothing else that they did, for the rest of the night could really match what we got there in that opening segment. But, Darby, I understand Darby being or wanting to be, in contention for the World Championship, throwing his name in the hat. He's another potential contender. He was the guy who so many people, myself included, thought that everything was building to him being the one to be the savior of AEW. He chose to go climb Mount Everest. That took him out of the game. Hangman got his spot, and the rest is history. We all saw how that worked out in Texas last year. And so now Darby is back, and, he's been feuding with different people. Really, it's been Gabe Kidd and the Dogs, and I'm watching all this. It's not like the idea of Darby Allin winning the World Championship or being the one to beat MJF. No interest. None. And these two have had some really good matches together before. Remember the Four Pillars 4-way at Double or Nothing a few years ago? They had a singles match many years ago. I want to say that opened Full Gear. One of the best opening matches that you'll ever see on a pay-per-view. So these two have had good matches before. I have no doubt that if they wrestle again, which they will, they'll have a good match. But the idea of Darby Allin becoming the AEW World Champion, especially when you have all of these other names that are lined up as potential contenders, no, I have no desire whatsoever to see that. And I don't see how Darby winning matches like this, where he basically just gets like a flash pin and then quickly, runs out of the ring. Like, how does that make him look strong? How does that make him look like a strong contender for the World Championship? It doesn't. Yes, he got a win over Rush, but it was kind of a fluky win. So it's not even like they're booking him in a way where he's like a world beater. And frankly, he shouldn't be. for being honest. But you would think that they would book him a little stronger than that, a little more decisive with some of these wins. That's certainly not how it came across here tonight. I think on the whole, like I said at the beginning of all this, decent show, great opening match, with nothing else that could really compare to it. It was good to have MJF and Kenny back in person. They were missing from the show last week, so it was good to have them back. We got a couple more things confirmed for Dynasty. I will point out, though, I mentioned Speedball, and Speedball is 1/3 of the Trios champions. Mystico, we're not going to have on the show every week. He's got the dual contract. He's going to split time between AEW and CMLL. But you have the Jet, Kevin Knight, who is not on the show tonight. Kevin Knight is somebody who really, starting around the time of the Continental Classic, was really starting to get some consistent reps on TV. And he picked up some big wins, too, by the way, including over Darby, but also Okada, right, in that tournament. That's really where it sort of started with him. And then coming out of the tournament, really, at the beginning of this year, he got more television time, and they were featuring him more. And then several weeks went by where he was on the show every single week, and he was having some big matches, even with MJF, right? He was in there with some big names. And I thought, this is good for Kevin Knight because that's exactly what you want to see. If you have a young star that you think, okay, this guy could be something, consistency, get him on television, get him in front of the people, get him wins on TV, and they were doing that. He wasn't winning. I mean, he didn't win, obviously the match with MJF. But the last time we saw him is when they lost the Trios titles to the Callis family. It was at the beginning of the month, 3 weeks in a row. Gunther is not the only one who's been missing for 3 weeks in a row, although that's far more egregious. But it's been 3 weeks. No Kevin Knight. No Kevin Knight in action here on these shows. And after I was praising them, I'm like, this is what you need to be doing. All of a sudden, he's MIA on Dynamite. We've seen Speedball, but we haven't seen Kevin Knight. And so it just goes to what I was saying before about the importance of consistency. And if there's someone that you want to push and elevate to where the fans will see them as being a big deal and someone special, you got to get them on the show. And Tony was doing a good job of that. Where has he gone? Where has he gone? Where has he disappeared to? How are you building on all of that momentum? I saw Speedball and it made me think of Kevin Knight, and I'm like, boy, he was on a decent little roll there for himself, and now it's been 3 weeks and nothing. Nothing. That has to change. Like he's vanished on this show. What did you think of Dynamite from Minnesota? 52% thumbs up for tonight's show, about 48% thumbs down. So more thumbs up than down, but that's pretty close to a tie. That's right there, almost right down the middle. At Solomonster on X. Let me know what you thought of tonight's show. I want to hear from you guys. Let's get into your super chats here. Start with our boy Joseph. Joseph Stewart, what's going on? Happy Wednesday, brother. Says people are making fun of The Rock's wig. The Rock's wig as Maui in the live-action Moana movie. And did you know that movie was Rock's passion project that he wanted to make? So was Black Adam. How'd that turn out? Congratulations on Sid finally being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Yes. We talked about that on TNT last night, and I will have a lot more to say about Sid on the Sound Off this weekend. What are your top 3 favorite Sid matches? Well, I'll tell you one of them. It is the night that he won the world title at Survivor Series, Madison Square Garden. Go back and watch WWE Vault last year. Uploaded his entrance for that match without commentary, clean. And just watch from the moment they hit his music and he walks out and the reaction he gets and the pyro where they would light up the letters SID, like the whole thing from start to finish. The guy was a superstar, man. He was great. But that was honestly maybe the best match of his career, for being honest. Do you think Clark Connors will be a future AEW World Champion? No. Have I seen Dances with Wolves? No. Have you seen the Mel Gibson movie Braveheart? I did, many years ago. Yes. Happy 54th anniversary to one of the greatest movies of all time, The Godfather. Do you think Speedball Mike Bailey is a future AEW World Champion? I hope not. No, I don't. TNT Champion? Sure. World Champion? No. And happy heavenly birthday to Aretha Franklin, he says. I hope you're having a great week and have a blessed day. Thank you, Joseph. I appreciate that. Crypto and Poker, I'll be at HOG in Vegas. Where are you partying after? Where am I partying after? Probably in my bed. Because I'm flying back to New York the next morning. That's what I'll be doing. Hopefully I'll enjoy myself on the Wednesday night. Dry Chicken says, I'm on Team Tom Brady. Brady in pro wrestling is a perfect fit. Have you watched the roast of Tom Brady on Netflix? I know it's a work, but I think the other WWE stars are getting worked. Yeah, I honestly don't give a shit about the Tom Brady stuff. I know they're trying to get him on the WrestleMania card to do something, and, you know, it'll be a big name for them to get, but he's been making these comments. It's obviously all designed to, you know, get people worked up. Some people are falling for it. I think most people aren't. I think they see it for what it is. But honestly, I don't give a shit. I really don't care about any of that. It says also the HOG Las Vegas card is loaded. Yes, it is. We're not even done with all the announcements yet. It is loaded. Hopefully once I get to Vegas, I'll be loaded. I haven't been to Vegas in a while. I try to enjoy myself a little bit. Says, you know why Randy Orton is getting cheered a lot is because Orton really is not a villain. He's an anti-hero of the story during his feud with Cody. No, I mean, they're cheering him because they like Randy Orton and they don't want to boo him. You know, it's like the John Cena thing. He's been around for so long, and some people are sick of Cody. And so that's a bad combination if you're looking for people to boo Randy Orton and cheer Cody Rhodes. It says, Solo, I love your music taste for synthwave. I love LeBrock, Ultra Boss, Tokyo Rose, Bonnie McKee, and Vibe Cycle Remix. Those are my favorites. Yeah. You need to check out The Midnight, and you need to check out Dance with the Dead. Check out some of their music as well. Indigo. Just want to say thank you for all the content this past year. I work a lot now, but I always try my best to show up and show out. Much love, bro. Yeah, Indigo is one of the OGs, and Indigo's a good guy. It's a good dude. Indigo, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Cult Meetup says $2 for Racing Queen. Trent's ripped. Love you so. Trent's ripped? Yeah, I figured you would enjoy Racing Queen for the intro tonight. Leopoldo with a 28, which I already read. We don't have to get into the meth cookies again, but thank you, Leopoldo. And Randy Bobandy as well. Thank you for that 50. You guys are awesome. The Mount Vernon kid, Christopher Bennett, whenever Roosh is in a match, it kind of takes my brother and I out of the match. It's just the no selling. It just feels so wrong at times. Yeah, Rush is not the only one who has a problem with that in that company. Yeah, I will say there are matches that I'll see these days where it does take you out of it, because it really does. Sometimes it just feels like they're doing moves for the sake of doing moves. And you never want to feel that way when you're watching the match. Got to get to the next spot. Got to do the next spot. Like, that's not wrestling. I don't know what that is. That's bad wrestling. So you're not wrong about that. Also, 46 months as a member, always a pleasure. Also turned 44 yesterday. I feel blessed to see another year. Well, I am very happy that you are here to see another year. Hopefully you'll have 46 more. Or 44 more. 46 months as a member, but he turned 44. Fried Chicken MJF be like, forever, forever, forever. If only MJF said, I'm sorry, Mrs. Hangman, I am for real. Forever, forever, ever. And men love Thekla. Thekla gives off Tiffany Valentine, a.k.a. Jennifer Tilly vibes from Chucky. Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I can see that. I can see that. Rojo Bear, 49 months of membership. Rush should have been at least a 2-time AEW World Champion during his run in the company. What is wrong with Tony Khan? I don't know. I don't know that I agree with that. That he should be a 2-time champion by now, but he should certainly be featured more consistently on TV and not have 2 singles matches in 2 years. I just think that's fucking ridiculous. And Scott Woodford celebrating 60 months of membership. I was there tonight and I give it a 4 out of 10. There you go. I said it was a decent show. It was not great. The opening match was great. That was the only great thing on the show. The rest of it was okay. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. Did Rush send that chat in? Yes. Rush is under a burner account saying, what's wrong with Tony Khan? Rush should have already been a 2-time AEW champion by now. See Rush on his phone in the locker room, in the live chat, typing his message in. Anyway, thank you guys. Again, the likes goal was 515. We are at 375. So, yeah, the WWE streams, we don't have an issue with it. The AEW streams is always very hit or miss. So tonight was not a Be the Booker night, unfortunately. And there were some, I did some refreshing to it too. So we'll have to table that for Friday and shoot for Friday. We'll have another Be the Booker goal then. If you missed the new episode of the Uncrowned Wrestling Show, it is up. Some good shit covered on there that went up yesterday on the Ariel Helwani Show main feed, and now a dedicated feed just for the Uncrowned Wrestling Show. So you can search for it and subscribe there as well on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts from. And I appreciate the tweets and the feedback. If you listen to the show, drop me a tweet. Include the hashtag Uncrowned. Fried Chicken says, Gordon Ramsay in pro wrestling would be a perfect fit. Have you heard his insults on Hell's Kitchen? I have. I feel like he has another show now, I think, right? I feel like he's mellowed out. Maybe in his old age. But, oh yes, I've certainly heard his insults before. There's a channel, I think, on Pluto TV. Sometimes I'm kind of scrolling through. I think there's a Hell's Kitchen channel on there. But I've come across it on there too sometimes. And yeah, no, there's been some meltdowns on that show. Yeah. Yes. Brian is talking about what I said about the Undertaker's suite package that they are offering for WrestleMania. Yes, I had a whole thing on that on TNT last night. And thank you for all the love on TNT. JD and I are very much appreciative. We've been killing it with those shows. You guys have been showing up and showing out, and We had upwards of 3,000 people live last night, so Tuesday has become quite the day. Quite the day. Anyway, next time I'm back here with you live will be Friday night for SmackDown. Cody Rhodes expected back on that show. He was supposed to be on the Pat McAfee show today, and he canceled. There was some sort of scheduling conflict. I'm assuming they came to their senses and said, wait a minute, why are we giving away his first appearance on the fucking Pat McAfee show? Let's save him for SmackDown. So we should have Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton together in the building on Friday. And is there a tag team title match? God, I don't even know. No, they're doing one next week. No, actually, I think it's Charlotte and Alexa, right, against the Bella Twins. Is that what they're doing on Friday? Whatever. Oh, man. Anyway, be well. Stay safe. Have yourselves a great night. Maybe we can pool our money together and we can do the Clash in Italy ticket package. What do you think about that? We could actually cook pasta with a WWE superstar, an unknown, unnamed WWE superstar. It's only $11,500. That's part of the package that you get with your tickets and some of the other perks. We'll pool all of our money together. We'll do like a GoFundMe so we can learn pasta making. Pasta making with Axiom. Oh boy. I want to know how he's going to eat the pasta through his mask. Maybe I'll ask him. See you guys on Friday.